From Detroit, joining us now is Afa S. Dworkin, President and Artistic Director of Sphinx Organization. Hello, Afa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad you could take the time. I'm wondering if I could just start off by gauging a bit of a personal response from you, how you're feeling given the current circumstances.
Well, absolutely. It is, of course, an extremely challenging time in the world and certainly in our country. And I also do believe it's a transformative time, an opportunity for our field, our society, our communities to come together and really allow um, our accountability and our actions to speak louder than slogans and words. So at the moment, certainly my priority personally and professionally on every level, the priority of the organization is wrapping our arms around our artists who are deeply affected not only by the pandemic in a disproportionate manner, but also by the other epidemic, which is a much more complex one in our country, and that is systemic racism and certainly the tragedy of the loss and the murder of George Floyd. So it has had a profound effect on our musicians, on our artists. It has evoked emotional, artistically beautiful responses. And I'm certainly trying to do all that I can to amplify the voices of our artists um, and be supportive, frankly, on every level, because at the same time, what we have is our ally organizations and partner organizations who are also stepping forward and trying to show their solidarity and find ways to affect their own work and their own programming through action. I think that's where the key lies. I think that's the role of our institutions. That is the role of our leaders, of color or otherwise, to step forward and insist on representation and insist on the true meaning of equity that goes beyond kind of a hashtag or a slogan or one singular statement.
Yeah, and music. How do you see music's role within all of this? Because the Blackout Tuesday and the Show Must Be Paused campaign that originated from the music industry. Do you feel as though music has a role to play within the wider movement and actually in achieving the goals that it aims to achieve?
Well, absolutely. I think um, music has had a pivotal, a critical role all throughout history of this country, certainly as part of the freedom movement. The civil rights movement has its, so to speak, soundtracks. So music is a vital piece of any social movement. And for an organization like Sphinx that sits at the intersection of social justice and the arts, we feel that viscerally. So it was certainly wonderful and empowering to see a sense of solidarity during Blackout Tuesday. I think it's a gesture, it is a statement. I just think it's critically important that we go beyond that, that we sustain the effort and show through our very specific actions, choices, and decisions, as well as advocacy, that we truly believe in a shifted perspective and sort of a new order and a new way of thinking and doing. I think sometimes the danger for our field and our institutions is to remain in kind of these singular actions or expressions of an institutional position, the way in which one organization or even several feel. I think now is the time to truly live up to what we believe equity and representation means. If we stand with the Black community in the wake of this tragedy, then I think it is our absolute responsibility to say, as an educational institution, for example, we also will do everything we can to ensure that our recruitment, our retention practices are welcoming of engaging and retaining a faculty of guest artists, of these artistic voices from the Black community, are also part of our decision making and is something that becomes an overall institutional priority, not for a month, not for one Tuesday, but really from here forward. If we are an orchestra or a presenting house, we have to make commitment that our artistic choices are going to be exactly reflective of what we're talking about right now. And it cannot be in the moment, it cannot be in an increment of 1 day or 1 month or in association with one hashtag or one anniversary. It has to be from here forward. So I think we have not only a responsibility, but an important opportunity. I do believe this opportunity has been here, but I'm also an eternal optimist. I do believe and hope that those are who are the gatekeepers and the beholders and the curators of these decisions and choices can step forward, join Sphinx, but join countless other organizations around the country and frankly around the world who are trying to devise an action plan and actually follow through. I think follow through is going to be the most important thing from this tragedy.
Yeah. And for this follow through, just as a final question, I mean, what would be some of the concrete steps that, let's say, a couple of examples that some of the bigger organizations from the arts music world, what could they implement as a sign that says we hear you, and this is how we can support you?
I think it's a great question. Upon immediate basis, I think some concrete things we can do would be commit the music that we perform, the arts that we present, the repertoire that we choose as, say, a performing arts organization to be reflective of our communities. So if we live in a city like Detroit, think about what equity would really look like if our programming was reflective of our population, which is more than 90% Black African American. Of course, it'll vary from community to community. So it's about repertoire choices. Every time we make a commissioning choice, for example, we commission a new work by a living composer, think about and select and invite and engage a composer of color. Every time there's an opportunity to engage a guest artist, somebody who comes in to perform for our community and engage with and talk with our communities, which is so significant because it's an opportunity for the community to get connected, get to know, to understand, to shift what they think. Um, every time there's a choice, make the choice to engage a non-white artist. um, and whenever we're planning our season a year ahead or 2 years ahead, ensure this doesn't just happen for 1 month or one season, but it's really from here forward. I also think one of the things that are really simple, there is certainly a lack of leadership of color, not only from Black community, but also Latinx and beyond in executive roles, as well as mid-management roles and entry positions. All throughout, there's a dearth of representation. So an immediate thing we can do is make a decision to make diversity a priority, an absolute institutional priority, to hire professionals and leaders and emerging leaders who come from these communities that we are saying we're in allyship, in partnership with, and with whom we say we stand. Now it's just time to practice that. Orchestras have a perfect opportunity right now to look at their boards and create opportunities to invite leaders from the communities who are representative of their target populations. So absolutely commit to, devise a plan that in 3 years you want your board to look exactly like your community. And that would be a wonderful thing. I know it has to start someplace. It's not going to be an overnight and immediate thing, but it's a matter of starting and actually doing it. I would say um, the biggest request and an urging I have of our institutions is to not get bogged down in roundtables, committee meetings, and conversations whose work will take years and say that it's a complex process. So that we don't have to look 5 years from now to another potential tragedy and say we are in the same place that we are. I think it would be poignantly unfortunate if we allowed time to go by without acting. So those are some of the tangible steps we can do. And really, some of these choices do not require, we have all of the talent, we have all of the knowledge, we have databases of musicians. Sphinx alone has more than 700 of its alumni um, who are ready, prepared, poised, giving, and motivated. So there is, what I do know for certain is that there is not a lack of talent. There is not a lack of access to such talent. So those things are myths and they just must be dispelled immediately. So anyone who says we don't know how to access these leaders, we do not know how to access these minds, these artists, I want to offer comfort and say they're right here. So it is not a matter of lack of availability. There are databases of these musicians and artists who are willing to play, willing to collaborate, to cooperate, to be engaged, and certainly be heard. And not only be heard, but actually listened to, which means that as we learn from them, as we engage with them, it isn't just a matter of giving them a singular platform, a singular performance opportunity. It's also a matter of hearing what we're learning and letting that become our practice, and be certainly letting what we learn be the primary thing that informs what we actually do in a sustained manner.
Yeah. Well, certainly lots to take away and lots to think about. Thank you so much, Afa, for joining us. It's great to get your thoughts on all of this.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for giving this voice.
Yeah, sure.